Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope everybody's feeling fantastic out there. Do remember, you are appreciated as usual, whether you know it or not. Don't forget that. Today, I just wanted to cover a quick topic, the mute modes in the Dictator 2. It can be a little confusing at first because if you do not remember what patterns or what projects you have in mute mode, you will think that you have certain elements missing in your projects and in your beats. So I just wanted to cover all the mute modes. There's 5 mute modes in total, and there's a little Easter egg because they only mention 4 in the manual. I'm going to show you a 5th one. It's not even in the manual. So let's get into it. Let's start with global mute mode. So in global mute mode, any pad that you have muted is going to be muted on all 16 patterns. The pads will be green. That's how you know you're in global mute mode. And remember, any pads that you have muted, the muted pads will be dark. The active pads will be lit in green. So that means that these pads are not going to be active on any of the 16 patterns in this project. That's the difference between the global mute mode and the pattern mute mode. So let's mute this top row here. This top row is muted. So now if we go to a different pattern, we're going to select a different pattern by holding down pattern, and let's select pattern 7. I don't know what's on it, but once we go to it, you can see here that the top row is muted too. So that's what global is. No matter what pattern you go to, the same pads will be muted. Let's go back to pattern 16. And that's pretty much it for the global mute mode. Pattern mute mode, you hold down function and you hit track twice. And now you see the pads are pink or magenta. So that's how you know the difference. Global mute mode is going to be green. Pattern mute mode is going to be magenta. So in pattern mute mode, any pads that you mute are only going to be muted in that particular pattern. So for instance, now we're in pattern 16. As you can see here, hold down pattern, and the pattern that we're in is going to be red, and that's 16. And we have the top row muted. So if we go to pattern 6, as you can see, the top row is active here. So that's the difference between pattern and global. If we go back to pattern 16, we'll see that the top row is still muted because it's only going to be muted in that pattern. So that's the difference between global and pattern mute mode. The next mute mode you have is prep mute mode, where you can actually prep the pads that you want to be muted. So in other words, that actual mute or unmute, that actual action won't take place until you release the function button. If we hold down the function button, you'll see in the top row, it says prep mutes, and you'll see a little diagram there. It has 16 black boxes representing the 16 pads here. And if I go ahead and start muting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you'll notice here in the top row that it's all X's, meaning that once I release this top row, that's when the mute will take place. Let me show you how it works right now. I'm going to do it right now. Hold down function. I'm going to mute the top row. And as soon as I let go function, that's when the action will take place. And vice versa. Now that I want to make those tracks active again, I hold down function. I'll make them active to turn yellow, and it won't be active until I let go of the function button, which I'm going to do right now. And there you have it. That's prep mute mode, where you can actually prep your pads to be muted or unmuted. The next mode we have is quick mute mode. So quick mute mode is simply if I'm out of the mute modes, because in order to get into mute mode, you have to press function track. That's how you get into the mute mode. Function track takes you out of mute mode. To get back into it, you press function track. Now you're in mute mode. Again, to get into your pattern mute mode, you hit function track twice, and now you're in pattern. But we don't want to be in any mute mode, so we're going to hit function track. Now we're out of mute mode, and we have to be out of mute mode in order to use the quick mute mode function. You play your pattern, you hold down function like so, and you go ahead and you mute the tracks. And that's your quick mute mode. And last but not least, you have the little Easter egg. This is not in the manual, punch mute mode. In this mode, you don't have to hold down function. You don't have to be in mute mode. You can just simply punch the pad and that will mute the sound. The only catch to this is you have to be on beat. I'm going to show you right now. So pay attention to pad 2 and then pad 6 and 7. The hi-hat's on 6 and 7. The snare is on 2. We're going to do 2 first. Now we're going to punch mute the hi-hats. And there you have it. So the only catch is you have to be on beat when you use the punch mode, because if you're off beat, you're actually going to trigger the sound, and you don't want to trigger the sound off beat. So always make sure you're on beat if you're going to use the punch mute mode. There's one other thing I did want to cover. This is very important. So with these mute modes, it's very easy to forget that what you actually muted and unmuted. So what I suggest is anytime you turn the sampler off, always make sure that you turn your pads back on, because once you turn it off, it keeps it in that mode that you left it. For instance, I'm going to mute this and I'm going to turn the Digitakt off. Just assume this is 2, 3 days later, 4 days later. Hey, if you're on vacation, maybe 2 weeks later, and you come back, you load your pattern or whatever, and you go to press play, and you're like, what's going on? Did I delete some sounds? Did I delete some elements? What's going on? I can't understand. I'm seeing the pads play, I'm seeing them triggered, but I don't hear any sound. It's because you forgot to turn the sounds back on. So always remember to unmute your sounds when you turn the Digitakt 2 off. So until next time, remember, keep banging out those beats, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.